So YouTube, what we're going to do today is um, we're going to show you how to interact with the pane with DrJava using the interactive pane. So just launch DrJava, and I'm gonna show you some simple ways to run Java expressions or statements without really writing a whole full-fledged Java program. Okay, so assuming you have DrJava installed, you will want to launch it. If you don't, just follow my other tutorial and get it up and running. So let's say we wanted to print out something to the console. We want to use the systems we want to use the print line method in the out class, which is located in the systems folder. In the system package that comes with the Java JDK. Okay, so it's system.out.println, and if don't worry about this yet, I'm gonna explain all these in our next video. In the next two to 3 or 4 videos, I'm gonna explain what classes are. Essentially, everything in Java is written in a class, and everything in Java is an object. So I'm gonna explain what those terms are, what a class is, what an object is, how you create objects from classes, what variables are, how you declare variables, and how you initialize them and use them. And then I'm going to also explain what data encapsulation is and what information or data hiding is all about in the next series of videos. And then we're also going to look at strings. But for now, I'm just trying to show you the reason why we chose to use DrJava. And because it makes it easy for newcomers to just print out Java statements or expressions right here in the interactive pane without having to write a Java program. And the way to print out text to the console or output text in Java without using graphical user interfaces, which we are not ready to start yet until a couple of lessons further down in the future, you will have to use the system's out.println method to output text format of whatever you want to depict to the user or show in the output. So let's start doing that. So like I said, in the next video, I'm gonna show you or teach you what all these concepts are. But let's say I wanted to write my name or print out my name. I will do that in double quotes. I'll put double quotes around my name because this is a string. Okay, and then if I hit enter, it will output my name. Now if we go to the console tab over here, you will see the same thing, but it doesn't include all these other stuff. Okay, so what the console output does is that it takes away everything else but just what was printed to the screen. Alright, so as you can see, I have done it a couple of times before, but let me clear it. Okay, so if we do the same thing again, now it will show up only one time. Alright, so that's how you print out strings, and again I'll explain what strings are in the next videos. But if you wanted to print out a number, you will do the same thing, but for a number you don't put the double quotes around the number, you just print the number as is. Okay, if you print out the number surrounded by quotes, it's no longer a number, it's now a string. It will show you the same thing, but there's a difference between this 4 right here and then this 4 right here. This is an integer and this 4 here is a string. So that's the difference. So if you want to output an integer, you want to just output the number itself without putting it in quotes. Okay, now let's try something else. Let's assign a value to an integer. Actually, let's assign a value to a double. Let's say we want to assign a value to pi. So we say pi, I think pi is 3.147, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, if we wanted to assign this number to pi, we will just declare it just like that in the interactive pane and enter. But you cannot see anything yet. If you wanted to see what the value of pi is, you can type the value or the variable that we assigned it to. This is a variable. The pi is the variable, and the double is the data type. The data type is something I'm going to explain in the next videos as well. But essentially, it's what this value is allowed to hold. So what we are saying here on this line is that the pi can only hold a floating point number, in this case 3.147. Okay, if we chose an integer which is int, then it will mean something different. So if we wanted to know what is held in this pi, you just type in the variable and it will print out the pi for you. Okay, but notice that it doesn't show up here in the console because we didn't print it out. We just evaluated what was inside pi. We didn't print it out. But if we wanted to print it out for it to also show out here, which is what you do when you write Java programs, you don't just type in variables like this. You actually give it to a method to print out, in this case the systems.out.println method. So let's do that like we did before, systems.out.println, and then because this is a variable, you're not gonna put it in double quotes like we did before. What you do is just put in the variable like that without the double quotes, okay? And then it will print out the same thing. But now if you go to the console, because you gave it to the println method, it now shows up in the console. And this is exactly how you will do it if you were writing the Java program out here in this area. You will print it out like this if you wanted to print the variable out. You wouldn't just type the py just by itself. But in the interactive pane, you can just evaluate what is stored inside a variable without using the println method, and it will just output it for you as well. But it wouldn't print it out in the console, just so you know what the differences are. Alright, so now let's try something else. Let's assign a string. A string is any characters that is any individual characters that is jumbled up together into one long string. I mean, it's hard to explain it without using the string again itself, but if you have a series of characters that you put together, you have a string. So let's say we wanted to write or assign I love programming. Okay, now if you do that and you hit enter, you're not gonna see anything, right? But let's do the same thing and end it with a semicolon like that. The differences between that and that, even though it wouldn't give you an error in here, is that the semicolon tells you that I'm finished with my statement. Okay, without a semicolon, it doesn't know whether you are finished or not. Okay, so it serves, the semicolon serves like a period when you are writing a sentence in English. That's all that is. But using the interactive pane, you're not gonna get any error if you don't end it with a semicolon. But if you do the same thing when you write a Java program without ending with a semicolon, you will get an error. So, I mean, keep that in mind. Even though you don't get an error here, you will get an error when you use a Java file and you don't end your statements with semicolons. So now let's evaluate what's inside name. We can just do that by typing name, and it prints out I love programming. But again, it doesn't show up here in the console. If you want it to show up in the console, you have to print it out. Okay, so let's go back and then print line. Again, this is a variable, so you just give it to the print line method as is and then enter, and it will output I love programming, but this time it will show up here too in the console. Alright, now you can actually perform a lot of methods, or perform a lot of string operations on these variables here. But again, we're not gonna go through all that yet because we're not at that point yet, until we know exactly how to declare variables and what strings are and how to define classes and how objects work. We're not gonna be able to do all those stuff yet. But in this video, I was just trying to show you how all these panes here in DrJava meant and what they are good for. So we're gonna end this video, and then in the next video we're going to look at what classes are, what objects are, and we also look at inheritance and data encapsulation and information hiding in the Java programming language. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.